Hello and welcome to that 90s Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host James Tunstall. Today we've got a very special guest. He is a former TNA World Champion, X Division Champion, Tag Team Champion, TV, Global, King of the Mountain Champion. And we all know that Kylie Rae's been asking for more intergender wrestling lately. Well, this guy was doing it 9 years ago because he even won the Knockouts Tag Team titles. He's only one of 5 men to win TNA's Grand Slam. He is a TNA original and he is the world-class Maniac Eric Young.
The intro, man. I was doing intergender wrestling before it was cool.
Exactly. I remember that run there.
A long time ago.
You and ODB, I absolutely loved it, and I would love to see her back in the Impact Zone again one day.
Yeah, I had a blast, man. It was an interesting time during that time when we were on Spike, and the truth is I wasn't even allowed to touch the girls. So if you go back and look at it, like I actually don't ever do anything physically to any of the girls that I work with. Because those are the rules on Spike TV. So the fact that people didn't just boo and say it was garbage is a bit of a feather in my cap, man. We had to be really smart about what we did and how we did it.
Yeah.
Me and ODB, we never lost those belts.
No.
I'm still one half the world tag team champion.
Yeah, so if Kylie Rae keeps talking about it, just go up to her and say, right, I'm still the Knockouts Tag Team Champion, so if you want to take it, bring it.
You never know what's going to happen, man. Pro wrestling's a wild, wild world.
It definitely is. So I suppose the first question I have to ask you, Mr. Young, how was you a wrestling fan growing up as a kid?
Yeah. I've been a wrestling fan since I was like 3 or 4 years old. I grew up in a very rural part of Canada. Very limited wrestling exposure, really early Saturday mornings, like Superstars and kind of shows like that. And then my dad would take me to this bar that was about 30 minutes away where he could smoke cigarettes and drink beer. And I would sit on the floor cross-legged and watch the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So that was like my exposure to wrestling. And then I don't think I ever was away from it, but I wasn't a crazy fan just because where I grew up, like we didn't have, I grew up in this little town, population of about 70 people.
Wow.
In the middle of nowhere. And you still can't get cable there. Satellite TV didn't really exist. I had 9 channels and my only wrestling was Saturday mornings and I would watch that sometimes. And then kind of early on in high school, 9th grade or so, me and my other buddies were just kind of addicted to reading, Pro Wrestling Illustrated and watching tapes. And he had a bunch of tapes and old Coliseum home videos.
Yeah.
And then we all went together and bought a satellite so we could watch Raw and Nitro and watch the pay-per-views. And I got bit, and that's basically why I'm sitting here today.
Cool. And I know that Mr. Damore, he was one of the guys who trained you, and when you very first made your debut in TNA back in 2004, you was part of Team Canada, and I know that your main tag team at the time was Bobby Roode, and you just won the tag belts. So what was it like, the jump from being like training into wrestling, then actually coming onto like a big show at TNA at the time?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and I've said this in other interviews before, is wrestling, independent wrestling, and just being a wrestler is so much different than being a television wrestler.
Yeah.
It's really 2 different things. And when I was going to TV, I thought I had it pretty figured out. And then you get on TV and you realize, like, man, like there's all this stuff that you just don't know. And you can't know what you don't know. And being in the position I am now, like tons of experience. I've been on TV almost every week for over 16 years.
Yeah.
That's for me, it's one of my biggest accomplishments. I believe is never taking a break. Knock on wood, never being injured, never missing a show.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's a very interesting thing, but it's that transition, like me and Scott had been friends for years. I did some training with him in Windsor, and then being able to work with him and Bobby Roode and Petey Williams and Johnny Devine and Team Canada, it's like, all right, so like now me and 4 of my best friends in the world are going to wrestle on TV all over the world together. Like, it was unbelievable.
It's like
I'll never forget that time in my life.
Yes, living the dream, and during your first run of TNA as well, like you said, you was always like when I watched it. Well, I've always watched TNA, but when I first got introduced to TNA, I think I started watching it 05, 06 possibly, and you was there. You was Showtime, Eric Young at the time, but you was always there. And like you said, you was always professional. You always turned up. Never no serious injuries as far as I knew, and you was always there. And in your first run, you worked with some of the biggest names of all time in wrestling. You was working against the likes of Sting, Jeff Jarrett, Nash, Kurt Angle, and Jeff Hardy. And what was it like coming up against these legends, basically?
Yeah, in a way, it's surreal. You mean, 'cause I've been a fan, since I was, 3 years old. Like, Sting was top 5 favorite wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
And then, like, fast forward, and we're in the bathroom at Universal Studios, and I'm wearing his pants, and he's painting my face. And I'm like, what world am I living in? I mean, it's crazy. Then, I was his first match back in almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, like a huge honor to share a ring with any of those guys, that list. Fond memories of doing, a little bit of things with all those guys. Like being, very close personal friends with Kevin Nash. I mean, we'd be riding the shows together, and I'm like, man, like if 15-year-old me knew this was going to happen, I would have had a heart attack. I mean, I would have had an absolute heart attack. But we're still buddies to this day. And a guy that, definitely went to bat for me a tons of times, like, teaming with him and Hall and in the band. Like, I know it was short lived, but like, man, I was basically in the NWO for 3 years.
Basically.
Not a lot of people can say that.
No,
So, like Jeff and Kurt, like, just awesome guys, very giving with their time and with their body. And the fact that I've shared a ring and went toe to toe with these guys, it's a big deal for me, and it always will.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like, because I've started this podcast only about a couple of months ago, and like I've grown up watching you and and some other stars who I've started interviewing, and I started getting being like a little bit of a fanboy when I'm interviewing you. So for someone like yourself, like who grew up watching Sting, who you said was in your top 5, and actually sharing a locker room with him, tag teaming with him, I can only imagine what it's like.
Yeah, it's very surreal. You mean, and like being on TV every week, and when it's happening, it's just kind of happening. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Often you don't get a lot of, they don't tell you a lot beforehand. At that point, like, I definitely wasn't involved. I was an employee. I showed up, and they said, okay, here's what we're doing today, and then I did whatever it was to the best of my ability. That hasn't really changed. Like, I definitely have a lot of say.
Yeah.
In what I say and what I do on the show, and that's something that isn't lost on me, because that doesn't exist everywhere. Impact Wrestling is a very collaborative place. Even back then, it was, and even more so today.
Yeah,
it's a very collaborative process. But like, to say that I was in the ring with Sting and Kurt Angle, like I choked Kurt Angle with a prosthetic leg. Like, that was his idea.
Yeah.
So it's very surreal. It's very surreal. I definitely, like, I earned it the old-fashioned way, and I don't think in any way, like, I'm not on that level. Like, I can hang with any of those guys.
Yeah.
But it's not lost to me that it's a big deal in the wrestling world, and it's a very big deal for me, and it's something that I'll remember forever.
Yeah, and even though your career's still going, I suppose this certain date, I would say, has been the highlight of your career up to now, because in 2014, on April 10th edition of Impact, you won a Battle Royal earlier that night, and then you made history because you defeated Magnus, which a lot of people now knows him as the NWA champion, Nick Aldis, and you became the world champion. And what was it like becoming the world champion of, like, you was in TNA for 10 years during this time, so after 10 years of hard work in TNA alone, you becoming the world champion, how did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, amazing. I mean, like, if you're in wrestling, you're doing this professionally, and you don't want to be that guy, then you're in it for the wrong reasons, and you're probably not going to last, and you're probably not very good at it. The truth is everybody should want that. Everybody should aspire to that. I knew, like, when I wrestled independently, that's who I was.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere in southwestern Ontario, throughout northern New York and Michigan and, the lower Indiana and Kentucky and stuff, like I was a top guy, like a guy that was a world champion or, the heavyweight champion of at times probably 10 or 12 different promotions at once.
Yeah.
And, that's all I knew. And then when you go to TV, like you reset and you kind of start all over again. So I wouldn't change anything about my journey. I mean, I've seen the wrestling show from every angle, the opening match, a mid-match that nobody cares about, the main event match. I've wrestled girls, I've wrestled X Division guys, I've wrestled world champions, I've wrestled legends, I've wrestled, I've seen it all and done it all, which is a very unique experience, I think. I don't think a lot of people can say that they've done as much variety as I've done. But the World Championship is top 5 wrestling memories in my entire career, which is loaded with tons.
Yeah. And after 12 years with the company in 2016, you decided to take a break, and you found success on, like I said, Black and Gold brand. But I can imagine you were still watching Impact at the time, and you saw the work Mr. Damore and Don Callis done, basically starting from the ground up with Impact again and taking it back to the heights it's starting to get again. How proud are you of Scott Damore and Don Callis of basically taking Impact, which they was at a pretty, let's be honest, they was at a pretty low level like a couple of years ago. It looked like they might have went out of business, but they managed to grab hold of it. And Impact Wrestling, I'm not lying, when you see it on Twitter, it's trending #1 quite often now worldwide. It's starting to become quite a big deal again. How proud are you of them two guys?
Yeah, I've said this in every single interview I did, and I will say it till the day I die, is Scott and Don and Ed from Anthem and Anthem Sports and any of the guys that had been here and maybe have left, or guys that were here and are still here, someone like Eddie Edwards, those guys, like just the tip of the cap, like unbelievable. Like they dug this company from obscurity. It almost didn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's, that's hard, man.
Yeah.
When no one's got anything nice to say, there's a black cloud over the company and it just keeps dwindling and dwindling from what it was. It's a tough place to be. And, part of the reason why I left was because I kind of had done everything that I wanted to do there. Management at the time was obviously way different. It's not even TNA anymore.
Yeah.
It's a whole new company. But the work that Scott and his team have done, like nothing but respect, nothing but respect. And I'm not the Slammiversary success, like the people that were watching it, there was buzz, but people didn't know that I was going to show up. Like people, knew some of the things about it, but the truth is all that work was done by Scott and his team. And I'm not patting myself on the back for those numbers, but I'm excited to be part of going forward. Because the hard work now is in front of us. They've done tons now, but if we wanted to grow and continue to grow, it's hard work, man. But the cool thing is everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction, which is not the normal in pro wrestling.
No, and that's how I feel with Impact. Like, I do feel like it's like a family feel, like everyone's pushing each other to be the best they can to help the brand out itself. And when you made your triumphant return at Slammiversary, I'm watching it, I'm like, this ain't going to be a fatal four. There's one more twist here. And then the Titantron lit up, and then I'm like, oh my God, it's Eric Young, he's back home. And I was so excited when you came back, and you performed, and it was such a great match by like Rich Swann, Trey, Eddie, and Ace. They've all put in the great work, and yourself included. And but then, you thought, right, Rich Swann got a cheeky little pin on me, it's time to make me mark, and you basically destroyed his leg.
Yeah, definitely. That's making your mark, and that's what pro wrestling's about. And the truth is, a great match and some great surprises. Rich's return, my return to Impact. But what people are going to remember is Eddie winning, me injuring Rich. All the other stuff will fade in time. The moves and the spots and stuff like that, but the memories and the emotion of what you remember from watching it, that's what you remember in wrestling. And that's what I try to provide in everything that I do. I want people to remember the things that I'm doing, not just enjoying them in the moment.
Yeah, and you also attacked last week. Rich Swann announced his retirement, and you attacked him again. And by the looks of it, your next target is Eddie Edwards, and you want to reclaim your world title. So I'm guessing that's your next plan, to take on Eddie Edwards.
Yeah, the goal in wrestling for me is to be world champion.
Yeah,
that's always been the goal. And there's always tons of things in between me and that goal. But I can say at this current time, there's nothing in between me and that goal. I mean, like it's just air and opportunity, and that's the goal. And Rich got in the way, and that's what happened. This past week, Willie decided to interject himself. I took care of that, and Eddie knows, and he's got a target on his back as the world champion, and I'm excited to see where this goes, man, for sure. I haven't been this excited about wrestling in a long time.
Yeah, and a lot of the UK fans were excited because you signed an exclusive contract with Impact Wrestling, and a lot of UK fans, they can watch Impact on on 5-Star on Fridays. And one of the things a lot of the UK fans want, and I can imagine yourself and a lot of the guys and girls at Impact wants, is to get their maximum Impact tours over back in the UK. Hopefully that's a go for next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the design, when you can grow your company to be, a touring brand as well. Because right now it's solely just a television product.
Yeah.
The truth is it's not going to happen anytime soon, because as a person who lives in the United States, I'm not allowed to leave the country.
No.
So, it's a weird time to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
A weird time for everybody. I mean, like the pandemic is just kind of putting a freeze on everything.
Yeah.
But I can say some of my fondest memories in TNA and Impact was the UK tours. Absolutely loved them. A lot of big moments happened for me there in Scotland and in Birmingham and in Manchester, in London. Like, it's a lot of huge moments in my career happened there, and I love being there. I've been there over 20 times in my life, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I think the Impact has always had a strong, loyal following in the UK, so we just can't wait for you to get back. But obviously, everything in the world has to be resolved first. But yeah, I think that's the amount of time I've been given to talk to you, Eric. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to plug your social media where everyone can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm the Eric Young, and on Instagram, the Eric Young IG. I'm not great at social media. I'm 40, so you have to bear with me. I try to be interactive and talk with people as much as I can, but I have a life outside of wrestling. I'm not on my phone all day because it's irritating.
Yeah.
So I do what I can. It is an awesome tool and an awesome way to listen to what people are saying and have a discussion and talk and listen to real fans, people that are watching and consuming the product. So it's definitely a very cool thing. And I've met tons of people, people in the UK that I'm buddies with. And we met because they're a fan of wrestling, and we got talking, and now we're friends. So it's definitely a tool, something that I enjoy. But I enjoy it sparingly. Don't ever take it personally if I don't respond. It just means that I'm busy being a husband or being a dog dad or working out or trying to be a person that's present in the moment and not on my phone all the time. So it's a balance, man, and I'm trying to do it as best I can. But I appreciate everybody commenting and following online and following on social media and watching the show, man. And this was a fun interview, man. I really appreciate your support.
Oh, that's great, Eric. And like I said, I've been a fan of you since, I can remember. Like I said, I started watching Impact in 2006. So, I've been a fan of your work for the past 14 years at least. And like I said, so happy you've come back home, because that's basically what Impact is. It's your home, and it can only get better. And the amount of dream matches we're looking forward to, we can't wait. And hopefully, we can do this again one day. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Mr. Young, and hopefully you get training goes good, and hopefully we'll be seeing some gold around your waist.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a nice day.